Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and for today's video we'll be going over the updates that are happening for this week of Tuesday/Wednesday reset. Even though the story of patch 9.1 is over, our covenants are continuing to grow with this week's update, as we have conduit slots in soulbinds that are going to be empowered, which means performance gains for every healer, tank, and DPS on a weekly basis. Of course, we also have some bug fixes, and there's a good chance we'll start seeing some of the more major content updates coming out sometime soon. We knew from last week that patch 9.1 is in the works, but when could it be coming out? I want to talk about that briefly in today's video as well. So let's first take a look at the actual hotfixes that have happened recently. If you're someone who plays Kyrian and you utilize the Mechanicos Soulbind, the very first ability for Mechanicos Bronze Call was apparently stacking a little bit too quickly with some projectile-based abilities and spells. To be honest, we don't really know what that means. Does that mean projectile is in like Hunter Arcane Shot? Because I imagine it's like a projectile firing from a gun or a bow. Or are we talking about basically anything that's a ranged spell that has like an animation or an effect that travels, like a big chaos bolt heading towards the target? So it looks like some of the ranged abilities won't give you double the stacks, but they also fixed an issue where certain abilities were not correctly adding stacks to Bronze Call to Action. So hopefully for many players this will mean that Brawn is just more consistent, that certain abilities do end up proccing Brawn and certain abilities don't double stack it for others. Definitely would be a little bit of a bummer if this change ended up being a nerf rather than a buff. They also mentioned that Blood Link should now be more responsive to damage. I don't really know what that means. Does it mean Blood Link procs more with damage or procs more consistently? Does it heal more based on the damage that is taken? Blood Link being the red Shards of Domination gem bonus, where your character will radiate damage, doing shadow damage to an enemy, healing yourself, but if you're at full health, you'll also end up healing an ally instead. So we don't really know what that means. It would have been nice to have some sort of a comment to add whether this is more damage or less damage, because we don't really know, but hotfixes either way. This week we also got a pretty big update for our soul binds and covenants in terms of conduit slots. So the conduit slots themselves for our characters are nothing special. They're just an empty spot to hold a conduit, whether it's a potency, endurance, or finesse. But with this change, we're actually getting some empowered conduit slots. So as we go week by week with our characters, we are going to unlock different levels of renown, and those levels of renown are actually going to power up our conduit slots. As in, starting from the top going down, the actual slot that holds the conduit will turn golden, but it will also enhance those conduits as well. What those empowered conduit slots do is they actually advance the conduit that it holds by 1 rank. So imagine if you have your character's best conduit at a 213 item level. As soon as you put it into an empowered slot, it becomes a 226 item level. It goes up by 1 rank. It only does this while it's in an empowered slot. And as weeks go by, different soul binds are going to get different empowered conduits, which means potentially big upgrades for many of our characters. Take a look at the actual conduit upgrades. When conduits themselves go up by a level or by a rank, they are a slight upgrade, not the biggest like a gem sometimes would or maybe an enchant would, but they are slight. When a bunch of those different conduits can get upgraded all at once, that together can mean a pretty big change in terms of your player performance, whether it is healing, tanking, or DPS. But with this new change and how we're going to get only certain conduits empowered week by week, it might mean a lot of players are going to be swapping which soulbinds they're playing as their main. Even though changing up and upgrading your conduits isn't the biggest gains that a character can have, I think a lot of players still enjoy the min-maxing element of their character. So quite a lot of players, I assume, are going to be swapping out different soulbinds in order to gain the most amount of empowered conduits. It probably isn't a good idea that conduit energy is a thing then, because week by week players are going to be swapping around to make sure that their main spec or the different specs they play are at the top shape. As if anything, we are aware we are definitely going to change up where our conduits are. Our strongest, best conduits that provide us the most damage, healing, and tanking are definitely going to go towards the top in order to make sure that those are empowered first. There was another change we covered earlier in the week, but I feel like it's worth covering again because this one addresses conduits. Whenever you are unlocking new conduits for your character, sometimes you just get random ones, and sometimes you get conduits of different specs. Maybe you want to focus on Frost Mage this tier, but you keep getting Arcane Mage and Fire Mage conduits. Well, with a change with this reset of Tuesday, Wednesday, next time you are at the Forge of Bonds, which is that board that you use in order to swap around your conduits and change up your soul binds. When you use items to unlock new or upgraded conduits, as long as you are in the right spec, as in, let's say you're a mage, you're in a frost spec, all the potency conduits that you'll gain are going to be in the frost spec. If you want to change potentially potency conduit upgrades for a different spec, you'll need to change specs before you open them. But this way you'll be able to easier focus in on the conduits that you actually need in order to upgrade those to the highest level as early as possible. There are a couple of different ways of getting those potency conduit upgrades. One is Korthia, especially if you have your conduits at fairly low item level, just killing rares and looting treasures in Korthia has a pretty decent chance to get you this crescent item, and that can be used in order to unlock your potency conduits and other conduits to, I think, a 226 maximum item level. Then there are Deathbound shards, which can be acquired two ways. One is to first reach rank 6 Archivist with Korthia, and then use and research gathered from the Korthian relics in order to just buy Deathbound shards. Then you could take them to that board, the Forge of Bonds, and be able to pop all your conduits on and try to unlock the ones that you need. Another way of doing it is through Torghast, through the Adamant Vaults. If you have your Torghast Box of Many Things, which is the new kind of talent system for Torghast in order to be able to get different upgrades and make the runs easier, if you have that upgraded enough, you should have unlocked Adamant Vaults. Inside of Adamant Vaults, you can get certain very high tier items to upgrade your character, which could be sockets for gear, but also those same Deathbound shards. And just about all of my characters have gotten quite a lot of Deathbound shards just from doing Adamant Vaults. The higher the layer of the actual Adamant Vault, the higher the chance of you getting some of the more rare and unique items that will be a huge upgrade for your character. The Adamant Vaults are not really farmable for some of the more higher tier items, so Deathbound shards are going to be on a once a week rotation. Finally, earlier in the last week, we heard some news about potentially patch 9.1.5 some point, someday on the horizon. And I am actually very excited for some of the different quality of life things that could be added with patch 9.1. Every single 0.5 patch, Blizzard generally does some class stuff updates, maybe some of the system changes, a lot of catch-ups generally added into the patch as well. And with this one, I feel like there's a lot of things that could be done. As of right now, recording this video, we have no idea when 9.1.5 could get here, but it first has to hit up PTR. So be sure to watch out Battle.net app in order to see if PTR starts getting any kind of updates. And as soon as 9.1.5 is on PTR, we're definitely going to be checking it out on this channel, taking a look at all the new things that are available, all the changes, quality of life things, and everything that's going to be new in the 0.5 patch. The earlier 9.1.5 makes it to PTR, the earlier we'll be able to see it, because every one of those patches, even some of the smaller 0.5 patches, do need to go through testing. We only recently finished the full storyline of our Covenants, but we still have quite a bit of renown to go for all of our characters, as the renown doesn't stop when the story ends. If I had to guess, my thought process is the 9.1.5 patch could potentially be coming out around the time when we cap out our renown. Because usually with 0.5 patches, this is where Blizzard adds a lot of quality of life things, particularly great for characters that are doing catch-ups. And with a lot of balance tunings, I'm pretty sure classes as well as Covenants are going to get hit in different ways, hopefully mostly buffs rather than nerfs. After our characters are maxed out with Renown, there isn't really much going on, there really isn't much to do, and if any players are looking to swap different Covenants, that would be the perfect time to allow players even more catch up with Renown. Because grinding to rank 80 does take a little bit of time. To us, it's only a week by week progress, which doesn't seem all that bad. But to start from Renown 1 and grind all the way to Renown 80 to complete your Covenant, it's quite a bit of a task. And that would be the perfect time for, once we reach the apex, for a patch to come out with quality of life stuff. At least in my head, it makes all the sense in the world. But you guys let me know, when do you think patch 9.1 could be out potentially? All we have are guesses for now, but we'll definitely update you guys as soon as we have something new and available. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed this update, and I'll see all of you in the next one.